Hey guys, it's Danny Elliott. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining me today. So I was thinking about the new Snow White movie. It's been panned basically everywhere because everything in America is a remake that's much worse than the previous one. The original Snow White movie was a classic. Like, I remember when I was a young laborer back in the aughts, my first jobs, I remember the old guys used to whistle the tunes from Snow White while they were working on the job site. You know, whistle while you work, right? You know, 3 generations after the movie initially came out, people were still singing the songs. And the new Snow White movie completely sucks. And by next week, people will forget all about it. You know, Prince Charming got replaced by Luigi Mangione, right? But it's like every other remake in America, basically all my life. Literally everything in America has been remade in the last 60 years. And it's been a disaster. Like, just think about it. The princesses are not finding their prince anymore. They're too busy working for rich men and paying taxes to the IRS. Like, 60 years ago, life used to be a walk in the park. Playing with little kids. You get to stay home, you know? You can gossip with the other women, right? And now there's no kids. There's only work. There's only the IRS. There's only the rich guy who owns the corporation that you work for and the tax man at the government who takes your money. The nuclear family has been remade into marriage scams that are settled in divorce court. And fathers were completely replaced with child support enforced by men from the government with badges and guns. Just think about that. And dating sucks too, right? You only need to go online for 5 seconds to find that out. You can't date at work. Oh no, no way. I mean, not unless you work for the government. Because I was going for a hike through the woods at a state park the other day. I come out of the woods onto the boardwalk and there's 2 Union firefighters making out right there. They're like shocked when I saw them. I said, I don't care. No one cares anyway. They're going to re-elect all your Democrat friends. The fire truck is idling 100 yards away, unattended in the parking lot. You know, emissions going all over the place. They don't care. They care so much about the environment, though. They're big libs. If you're a professional, though, and you don't work for the government, you can't date anybody from work or somebody's getting fired. You know, I hear from Gen Xers, back in the day, office parties used to be pretty fun. You could meet your partner there. It was good times. But not anymore. Not today. The girls in the HR department are ready to take you out. Anybody does anything wrong. They get really tired from posting fake jobs all day, guys, you know? They're slugging down their pizza and energy drinks, you know? They have terrible lives. Their relationships are a disaster. They love to fire somebody, breaking the rules in the company handbook. But, you know, we used to encourage people to socialize amongst themselves and partner with somebody else who's kind of on their level, right? But now we have these mid-women who are all shooting for the top 3% of men, and so the bottom 70% of everybody never finds anyone. And that leaves everyone unhappy as a result. How is this remake of our culture working out for us here in the West? We should think about this sometimes. You know, some people, they're so upset about it, they just stopped caring. They don't even care about themselves anymore. You know, forget the best version of yourself. I mean, they're sitting around doing nothing. They're playing video games. They're watching entertainment. They're watching Only Fools, right? They dye their hair neon colors. They collect tattoos and piercings for fun. And they spend all their time arguing on the internet and they never leave the basement. The whole American workplace is a bad remake. We replaced merit-based hiring with gender-based hiring. Basically, 1/3 of the American population is suppressed from getting a job in 2025 because of gender and color. Modern corporate executives are increasingly white females. There was a recent article in Business Insider which confirms this. Very long and inconsequential rant about Trump and Elon. But within the article, they confirm all the CEOs, all the girl bosses, are all white women. So, where's the diversity in that? You know, this remake has thrown our society completely out of balance. Men don't have time to deal with these dead-end jobs in corporate. They're leaving these jobs to focus on investing. They focus on their own businesses. They focus on self-improvement. I mean, I can tell you I did. My mental health, my physical health, and my financial health has improved 10x since leaving corporate. Since I don't have to deal with baby boomers micromanaging me. Since I don't have to deal with HR interfering with my business operations. I don't have to deal with that anymore. I don't have to deal with people's demeaning, condescending attitude problems. I don't have to deal with it anymore. Anybody gives me attitude, I just get rid of them. I don't have to do business with them. You know, I'm not forced to put up with unacceptable conduct. But, you know, the girl bosses are not happy these days. They're not happy, guys. They're big drinkers. They don't have partners. They just have a lot of wine and they have a lot of little doggies and they're in therapy. Like, look at the alcoholic mayor, Gina LaPlaca, the ultimate girl boss, the princess of Lumberton, New Jersey. Her town committee serves at her pleasure. Her subjects pay tens of thousands of dollars in property taxes, which she controls. She has been arrested multiple times for drunkenly assaulting her baby daddies and her previous boyfriends. This month she got fired from her job at the town of Neptune. Then a few days later she showed up at a town meeting in Mount Holly and tried to assault an elderly woman and called the woman a fucking skank before being hauled out by police. And then she got blackout drunk on the morning of St. Patrick's Day and she drove intoxicated through town with her 2-year-old son in the car while the community members watched as she nearly crashed her car into utility poles. And now the town committee won't even take any action against her. They're all afraid of her. And this woman is still the mayor of Lumberton, New Jersey. No one can touch her. She's Princess Gina. And her husband is even more pathetic, but that's a whole other story. But this is what passes for normal today in the remake of the United States. The workplace, the government, set that all aside. The remake of the U.S. housing market is a total disaster. I mean, not long ago, ask any baby boomer, middle-class Americans could buy a house for an affordable price and own it free and clear within about 15 years. They would own it outright. No mortgage, no banks. We had reasonable property taxes, reasonable insurance rates, right? But now, everything is based on making the price go up. Everything is based on getting the buyer to ignore the price of the house completely, only focus on the monthly payment, and take on higher and higher interest payments, higher and higher property taxes, and keep borrowing against the value of the house until they have absolutely no equity position left. So in the end, the bank gets all the money, and the homeowner loses the house, and they end up as a renter. We're turning into a renter nation. This is the remake. And finally, to close this out, the remake of the economy in America is a total nightmare. The business cycle has been so suppressed by endless money printing and government intervention, bank bailouts, stimulus checks, PPP fraudulent payouts. You got all these green scams. You got the biggest transfer of wealth from the middle and working class to the ultra wealthy in the history of the world. And it's all been engineered by the central government in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Over the last 20 years, the country has slowly and quietly sunk into malaise, and the mainstream media doesn't care. So the remake of the American society is a disaster, I'm sad to report. And I prefer the classic version, the one my World War II grandparents had. That was the original and the classic. But today, this thing called the American dream, as George Carlin said, you really got to be asleep to believe it. And the masses are sleeping beauties. But now it's time for us to unfortunately inform you that we have to let you go. The decision was made that you're just not the right fit for the remake of this corporation, the United States of America. And we wish you the best in the future. And we hope you can find what you're looking for in a warmer place with traditional values, a thriving culture, and much smaller, less corrupt government in your new opportunity. Perhaps somewhere overseas. Thanks for watching. I'm Danny Elliott.